And as I've kind of started out each one of those with a reminder to everybody, I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote on February the 9th, which is a week from tomorrow. I know the candidates that are on the call today are excited about that, but it will be here before we know it. But just a couple of kind of calendar events that you need to be aware of is that you have until tomorrow at 5 to request an absentee ballot. So if you'd like to do that, or if you need an absentee ballot, make sure you get that requested by 5 tomorrow night. Early voting starts Thursday and Friday of this week from 8 to 6 p.m. Thursday and Friday at the Cleveland County Election Board or on the fairgrounds. You can go there and vote in person, absentee. Very easy process. So another opportunity for you to get out and vote. And then, of course, lastly, make sure you go to your poll next Tuesday if you haven't voted by then. And kind of the basis behind these forums is I want you to go vote, but I really want you to be an educated voter. So we've been thrilled to host these forums to make sure that you're educated on the issues. I want to remind everybody again that we are recording this. We're live on Facebook. We will also be posting this besides on the Chamber and Norman Next Facebook page. It'll be on our YouTube channel. So feel free after the fact, if you missed it and you need to go back and watch the recording, I'd encourage you to do that. Or if you'd like to share the video with some friends of yours that might happen to live in Ward 7, please do that also. Well, I want to thank our three candidates that are with us this evening, Stephen Tyler Holman, Chris Jourden, and Monica Marsh. Thanks to each one of you. I know it's not an easy process to run for office. We're in the home stretch though, and you have all three of you have been very gracious to make yourselves available this evening to the voters of Ward 7, and we really appreciate that. So we're going to jump right into it and get into our questions this evening. We're going to have the same format that we have for the previous 4 forums. I'll be keeping time. When 15 seconds are up, I'll give whomever's speaking the yellow card, and then if they happen to make it to the full 2 minutes, the red card at the end of that. So anyway, we will begin with Stephen, and then we'll just kind of rotate through like we have done before. Steve, the first question is to you. If elected, what is your top priority for the city at large in your ward specifically?
Well, the top priority as far as the ward and the city is we have a number of projects that are currently in the pipeline that voters have approved and that we need to get done and continue working towards getting done. And there are several projects in Ward 7, several transportation and road projects, some stormwater improvement projects in Ward 7 that really need to get done that have been approved. And we got some good news about that today, thankfully, when it comes to federal funding to help get some of those projects done. So that's what some of the things. The new public transit hub that we're working on for downtown Norman is also a very important item to me because of the issue it is. Public transit's always been very important to me. It's something I've heard over the years from Ward 7 residents being very important. We have a large part of Ward 7 that isn't currently served by public transit that we need to get service to. And so that's part of our, right now, the reworking of our routes that we have city staff working on to study how can we change the routes to better serve and more efficiently serve the people that need it. And so those are a couple things. Stormwater continues to be a big issue in the city of Norman. We still do not have a dedicated funding source to address those issues. We've been able to come up with some creative solutions like road projects, combining them with road projects to get some stuff done. But that continues to be an issue when it comes to water quality and flooding throughout the city. And then also just continuing to be an open source of information for people to come to with questions, with concerns. Anyone that comes to me with a city issue, I've always been more than willing to listen and take that issue on and see if we can find solutions or not. So continuing to do that and help kind of bring some of the divide back together by listening and understanding.
Thank you. Chris, the same question to you. If elected, what is your top priority for the city at large and your ward specifically?
Thank you. My top priority has kind of built down into the health of the city. That is socioeconomic issues, but also physical and mental health of the constituents. That kind of flows down into the current economic downturn, the rise of homelessness here that the citizens are concerned about, the rise in uncivility or the civil unrest, if you will, and then the health and well-being of the citizens. I've broken this down into my platform, which is called Fit City. The F stands for financially forward. We want to promote an economic growth environment. That's a big part of like our financial well-being as a city. That entails like streamlining the permit process and being a little bit more efficient when we engage with other people across the city and community groups. The I stands for infrastructure. Here we want to talk about our concerns, our roads. Councilman Stephen kind of nailed on that we have a stormwater issue that we are working on. That's a little difficult because we don't really have a good plan yet. But I would always suggest, going for, outside funding in addition to our own creative plan, talking to federal, talking to state. And then lastly, the T in Fit City stands for teamwork. We need to end the, kind of the crummy attitude we have here in our city sometimes when it comes to politics. And that also involves, voting and voter awareness, and we need more voters to get out there. When we talk about, we need to have more projects here. We talk about bonds. We need to be sure that we're encouraging voters and educating them at the same time. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Monica, the same question to you about your priorities for the city and your ward specifically if you're elected.
For me, for both the city and the ward, it really is addressing the divide, because I don't think we can go forward until we address that and we start compromising. I think that both sides I think there's misinformation on both sides, to be quite honest, and we're both judging each other on that. And we need leadership that is willing to compromise. I think a lot of the concern is whether it is partisan or not. We can't go from one extreme to the other, yet it's very clear that constituents believe that it has, but we can't just focus on the one side without addressing the other, because then it's the same problem, just, reversing the roles. So I think that what we really need in the city is to come together. We're losing our beautiful Norman culture, and we need to get that back. We have always been inclusive, in my opinion. I've been living here for, over 14 years now, and I've loved living here until, this last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So my question will start with Chris. Describe your philosophy with regards to economic development, meaning job creation, job retention, and expansion.
Yeah, thank you. First, let me start off with expansion. Let's talk about how we need to develop a better entrepreneurial ecosystem. We need to be able to give people the ability to be connected and upgrading our permit system, as I talked about earlier, but really we need to be celebrating businesses that are doing well in our city and are following the rules. We really need to be uplifting these organizations we have here. Even possibly talking about having a Hall of Fame in our high schools or colleges that have local business people who grew up here, who have started something that have become successful. I think that's a big part of it. Another thing is culture. And it's like culture. We need to be talking about how our city interacts with each other. And I think that's a top-down system. So it's like how our city interacts and how our attitude is will reflect onto the business owners, and the business owners' attitude will reflect onto their employees, and then from there to the consumers. And so how we interact and how we portray ourselves and our attitude is really important when it comes to expansion and having good economic growth in our city. And on top of that, we have to be dedicated. So that's the part, is like we have a plan, we have to stick with it. And then when you talk about retention, that sinks back to culture and planning for the future for our community. We need to take advantage of outside funding like philanthropy, federal funding, state funding. We had a great opportunity last year with the bond vote with Trey Young, who was willing to donate some money. I thought that was really awesome. And side note, big fan of Trey Young, got to see him play basketball, super cool. But on top of that, we need to establish incentives and redevelop some areas of Norman that we've kind of kind of maybe turned an eye to because we were looking for growth to spread out. And so I think reinvesting in our core would be a really great plan. Thank you.
Monica, you're next. Do you need the question repeated?
Okay. I think that we need to start by becoming more business friendly. We need to be less selective, or just allow more businesses of different varieties to come in here, different sizes, small businesses to fill the storefronts that are currently empty. That's not a good look. Unfortunately, it kind of shows that people are not willing to invest in our city when you see all these empty storefronts. Also, big box businesses, they generate millions in sales tax revenue, which we could very well use. And then, tech and manufacturing, like more like Emmy, Avera, Hitachi, that kind of stuff, because those provide quality jobs that will retain people here. We have people of different levels of qualifications too. So, focusing on all types of businesses instead of just one particular type will benefit everyone, especially in our Ward 7. We have students, so we have people that are, working and are just entering the workforce. So they need entry-level jobs like, franchises. And we also have more Norman and technical vocational training here. So, small businesses can help people like the cosmetologists and electricians and graphic designers. And then, for our college graduates, the tech and manufacturing. So I really think that we need to be focusing on that.
Thank you so much. Stephen, would you like the question repeated?
No, thank you. I appreciate the question, and my philosophy on it really comes down to fostering an environment of basically quality of life. And in Norman, we've really been trying to do that the last several years, making serious investments that voters have gotten behind. Norman Forward being an example of that. Investing in things like parks, the libraries, Westwood Pool, new skate park, the swim complex, the multi-sport gymnasium Chris was talking about in regard to Trey Young. All those types of things included with a good school system, a nice university that we have here in our town, reliable city services, things like that are what make businesses want to move here. And I absolutely agree that the businesses we need are places like Avara and Hitachi and Johnson Controls and Emmy. Emmy's one of the businesses that I'm most proud of having supported an incentive for them to stay in Norman a few years ago when they were expanding and looking at potentially moving to Oklahoma City or more. Founded by Norman guys, a Norman company, they wanted to stay here. And we were able to come to an agreement on an incentive that kept them here. And then thankfully, in the situation that we're in now, what a blessing it has been to have a company like them in Norman to provide the services that they have. So making Norman, continuing to make it a place that people want to come to and bring their business, that's what we need to do. We need more jobs that are not just minimum wage jobs either. We need jobs that pay a livable wage. If people have money, they work and they have money, they can then go out and spend that money back into our local economy, which is what funds all of our city services. So that's kind of been my economic philosophy, is trying to foster an environment and create a city through quality of life initiatives that make us attractive to people.
Thank you so much.
Everybody get to answer that? Okay. I told you were going to be on top of it.
Promise I didn't skip anyone.
Okay, Monica, we're going to begin with you this time. Do you believe that Norman is experiencing a long-term problem with sales tax revenue? If yes, how do you propose to fix the problem? If no, why not?
Yeah, I do think that, well, long-term, short-term, I think it depends on our attitude towards business. I think that just like we have a very inclusive mindset when it comes to our people, we need to be the same with our businesses. I kind of touched on it on the last question. We need to be business friendly. Otherwise, we're just not going to have that increase in sales tax that we need to make our city work. And my thing is, how do we do that? Well, we fix the things that we can control, such as infrastructure and our roads, keep them up, keep them well kept, maybe create more accessible roads for businesses to be able to come, like big box businesses. And believe it or not, like just nicer when a town looks run down, it makes it harder for businesses to come down here and want to invest their money. You know, it has to be aesthetically, you know, pleasing to an extent. It shows how we take care of our city and how we would eventually take care of them and how the tax dollars will be used correctly. So to me, the solution is being business friendly and bringing businesses in.
Very good, thank you. Stephen, next to you, the same question about long-term problems with sales tax revenue.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It is a really serious issue that cities all across the country, but specifically in Oklahoma, are facing. So Oklahoma is the only state in the United States where state law restricts cities to operation with sales tax only. Cities do not get property tax or ad valorem for operational purposes. So we are completely reliant on sales tax. And so, in my opinion, there's a couple issues. You have online sales. That's been growing nationwide, worldwide for a number of years now. And when people don't shop in the brick and mortar stores, that has a direct impact on us locally. Those dollars aren't staying here, and we're not getting the sales tax return from online sales that we would from the loss of brick and mortar. Big box retail stores is also a problem because we've seen nationwide these big box retailers going bankrupt and closing. There was nothing that the city of Norman could have done to stop Toys R Us from closing. Their company nationwide went bankrupt. So or Sears at the mall, big box stores, and pitching your entire economy and wagon to that can be very detrimental. We need to be focusing on our small, locally owned businesses in Norman. And until COVID hit, downtown Norman was doing its best economically that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, when I was growing up in Norman, Main Street was vacant. There was hardly anything there. You had the diner, you had the Vista, and you had Coach's. And that was just about it when it came to things to do. And now there's almost, before COVID, I think there were 2 empty storefronts from the Tracks to Porter left. We've been seeing this. We're seeing growth. We're seeing housing happening in the core area. And I think we need to continue to support our locally owned small businesses. We need to focus on public transportation so that our population has the ability, everyone has the ability to get to the places to shop, to get to work, to make money, and be able to also go and spend that money shopping at our local businesses. I think that's what we got to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, same question to you about sales tax revenue in our city.
Yeah, perhaps not right now. We have a long-term problem, but I could definitely see it in the future. I think our current attitude, coupled with the pandemic, could easily lead us into a long-term sales tax issue here in Norman. And that would echo back to my cultural change that we need to implement to make sure that we get the right attitude to step forward. On top of that, we need to be really looking at helping our businesses to be a little bit more, to have a better competitive edge when it comes to competing against Oklahoma City. And that entails, having market intelligence on key consumer segments, being able to know what days are best to shop. And that stands from, promoting shop local. I think shopping local is incredible. I don't see any issue why we need to stay away from that, but also there's no reason why we can't put both feet forward and have some big box stores and have some of these bigger companies come in, these bigger organizations that have higher salary jobs so people can have families and support their families and they can buy some of the nicer houses here. I think when we start to kind of pit the two against each other, we really lose out on money every single year. In addition to that, we really need to be working with the state, the Department of Commerce and the Tourism Department to make sure that we are bringing people here to Norman and seeing what great businesses we have here. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, my question will start with Stephen. Do you believe Norman should be competing more proactively with surrounding communities for new businesses that generate sales tax or offer quality jobs? If yes, how? If no, why not?
Sure. Appreciate the question. Absolutely. And again, that goes back to fostering and creating an environment in Norman that makes people want to move their business here by investing in quality of life and by investing in infrastructure, by investing in public transportation, in clean water. All those types of things are what grab the attention of people and make them want to come here. There are some issues that make it very difficult to compete with other cities like Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Dallas, even more sometimes. Look at Oklahoma City. It's the largest city in the metropolitan area, and Norman is the second largest city in the metropolitan area. Moore is right in between Norman and OKC. There is a geographical advantage there. So what do we have to do to overcome that geographical advantage? We need to have better parks. We need to have better amenities. We need to have better services. And we need to do a better job of making sure that when people do want to build something here, that the process is understandable, that it's not going to be this inspector told me one thing and then this other inspector told me another. That's a story I've heard so many times over the years. And one of the reasons with our new city manager that we hired last year, one of his qualifications that really drew our attention was that specific thing, wanting to come in and rework how we do business in the city of Norman when it comes to that. So making it understandable for people to come in and build something that then can be an attractive spot for businesses to come in. So that's how I think we need to continue to compete. We have a lot of natural advantages. We have 200 square miles. We have a large lake area that's great for tourism. We have the University of Oklahoma here, and we have a downtown core area Main Street that our neighboring cities don't have. Oklahoma City is a major city with downtown stuff, but as far as cities our size and smaller towns, Moore and Edmond, they don't have what we have.
Thank you. Chris, do you need me to repeat the question?
Oh, I got it. Thank you. Yeah. So short answer, yes, I think we should be competing with other cities with new businesses and sales tax and quality salaries. A big part of that is what I said earlier, but encouraging entrepreneurial spirit here in Norman. We've got a great business college here at the University of Oklahoma with a lot of great students. We need to be, showcasing what we have here in Norman, what we can show to them if they want to start a business, please come here, start your business here. In addition to that, helping what we have already is a big thing we need to do. But also we need to be attracting young professionals. That's how cities continue to grow. I think when we look at smarter neighborhoods, safer neighborhoods, bike lanes, I think it's almost a fifth of all millennials don't have driver's license, so they bicycle to work every day. And they want to live close to where they work. So that means we need to be bringing in businesses that they can work there and having neighborhoods where we have, bike lanes so they can safely get there. In addition to that, I know that we sit here, we compete against Moore in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but also if we turn south, we have a bunch of small towns here that we can drive business from. We can sit here and work with them and compete with them. And there's a lot of good businesses good people down there. And so I think that we don't just need to be looking north, we also need to be looking south and building a really good competitive advantage and to be able to help our city and find really good employees. And yeah, I'm really passionate about all of this stuff. So thank you.
Anytime. Monica, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Yes, of course, I do believe we have to compete. Since, I've been here, Moore and Midtown has exploded and we have not. We are not growing at the same rate or really close to it. Unfortunately, I do feel like we've kind of plateaued at this point. And they have a lot more going on. So when they have a lot more going on, more shopping, more entertainment, more dining, all of that, that's important to the quality of life. They need to work hard and play hard, but that needs to happen here in Norman, not elsewhere. A lot of people that used to be diehard Normanites that wouldn't go anywhere, me included, you couldn't catch me driving to OKC, 2 years ago. But these people are realizing that there's nothing new here. And so we have to go where there are new things. And unfortunately, that takes our money away from Norman. And, you know, we need that money. Not only that, but those are jobs too that they are providing for their people. So they're taking care of their people by increasing sales tax revenue, by providing jobs, by providing good quality life, you know, and we're kind of falling behind on that. And if these businesses aren't choosing us, we really have to sit here and wonder why. You know, like we can't just see them go elsewhere and think that's okay. We need to start analyzing what the problem is and working to fix it. I mean, we should be a #1 choice. We should have cool places for our people to go. And we should keep our money in Norman.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, next question. Studies have shown Norman has the highest cumulative development costs, connection fees, and most restrictive building ordinances in the region. How do you propose to rectify this?
Well, I think that we need to be building a more efficient process when it comes to new businesses. We need to have more business analytics when we kind of take a look at things as a whole. And it's okay for us to upgrade into the 21st century and use new technology so that we have a competitive advantage when it comes to being a little more efficient, be a little more cost effective, to gaining more businesses here. And I think the city council should have enough wherewithal to know how to keep us on that competitive advantage. Where we talk about machine learning, and you really have, you pick characteristics and methods, and you let computer analytics go down, you know, this analytics wormhole to find patterns for you, so to make sure that you don't have maintenance issues every single quarter. And it's really simple when we look at all of these new analytic tools that we could use. If not, we're losing millions of dollars. And on top of that, we need to make sure that we're being environmentally friendly, because that's the key. Because when we sit here and we sidestep environmental policies, we will end up costing our city millions of dollars down the road. So as long as we're being green and we're being fair, there's no reason why we should have such high costs and that are turning away businesses. So thank you.
Thank you. Monica, the same question to you. You need me to repeat it?
No, I agree that we do need to streamline the process and actually make it way more efficient. I know firsthand how, and I don't even have, you know, my business is in a standing building. It's just a storefront that I had to renovate the inside, and it was delayed by months. And this is not a rare occasion. This is something that happens in the business world. You hear it all the time. It's not an isolated event, and it's unfortunate. So I can only imagine building strip malls and other, you know, structures. And we also have that reputation that people don't even want to mess with. How many times have we heard, oh, it's in Norman, I don't want to deal with building there. So we're losing business from people that are willing to invest in our community just because of all these delays and lack of, you know, a streamlined process. So I do think that it's very important. We need to change that reputation. And again, it goes back to being more business friendly. These costs need to be feasible. You're kind of setting up businesses for failure when the costs are really high right off the gate. And when you're having to delay things, well, we all know time is money. You know, we keep accumulating costs and we have to pay them whether the business is open or not. So this is unfortunate, and it definitely needs to be changed. And it's something that we're going to have to sit down with people and figure out where are the hiccups and just fix them already.
Thank you. We'll wrap up this question with you. And make sure you need to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Thank you. I would note that if you look around Norman right now, and especially in Ward 7, there seems to be construction happening absolutely everywhere. I know in Ward 7, homes cannot seem to be built fast enough south of Highway 9. And that area has become the fastest growing area of Norman. Southeast and Northwest is what we're seeing. And one of the issues when you talk about cost is, what does it cost the city to provide connections and services and sewer and water and roads and all that infrastructure to serve all of this? There is a cost to that. And the cost in Norman for connection fees may be high, but it might not be, we still might not be collecting the total cost that it costs the city to provide that infrastructure. And that's something we have to continue to be conscious of and look at, because if we're not recouping that cost, as we go on and on and on, that continues to grow, that maintenance continues to grow. But understanding too that we have to be competitive with our neighbors as well, and understand that a new resident, that person is now paying a city bill every month now and contributing back in like that. So when you look at overall utility costs for a resident in Norman, we're actually tied for the lowest in the metro area when it comes to total cost of city services to a resident. So that's really important. And we have to understand too that commercial development and business are not exactly the same thing. Opening a business in a building that's already up to code and ready to go, I've done that and it was not a hard thing at all. But if you wanted to build something, as Monica mentioned, if you have to remodel, there have definitely been stories longer than I've been on council, going way back for years, about Norman and inspectors and it being a very difficult process. And I go back to just part of why we hired the new city manager that we did was in large part due to his financial background, but also his background in reorganizing city structure so that we can address those type of issues and kind of shake off that reputation in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, this one we will start with Monica. The city of Norman is facing significant budget shortfalls in future fiscal years. Do you have any recommendations or opinions to prevent potential budgetary crisis for the city?
Well, to me, that's kind of more of a common sense solution. When you don't have your sales revenue to pay for all the things that you have going on, then you start trimming back. You start tightening the budget. You know, we have ups and downs. We rely on our sales tax revenue. So to me is we need to start prioritizing. We need to start seeing what are our needs versus what do we want. And as you know, our sales tax goes up, then we can start, you know, getting those things that we want back. But it's just a matter of reevaluating the budget, perhaps reallocating, but definitely trimming back and make sure we're spending it on the right things that are dire to the city. Like, you know, it has to run smoothly, things like infrastructure, clean water, the storm water, you know, that kind of stuff, rather than other projects. Sometimes we just have to put things on hold until our revenue is back up.
Thank you. Stephen, we'll go with you next. Can you repeat it?
No, thank you. So when it comes to like structural budget issues in the city, there are two primary things identified a few years ago by our finance staff and the city council back then, of steps to take to alleviate the stress of the city's general fund, which is entirely sales tax based. And we've accomplished one of those, and that was ending the tax increments in the UMP TIF. It just was not sustainable at the rate that it was at, and ending that increment early was one of the things that was pointed out as needing to be done. The second one was a stormwater utility, a dedicated funding source, just like our other utilities that have a monthly source of revenue that's dedicated only for that purpose. Because right now, the city of Norman addresses all stormwater needs with our general fund. We have state mandates that we have to comply with that are becoming more expensive and requiring more and putting more and more stress on the city's general fund to keep up with that. So that's an issue. The public safety sales tax is another one. It is not generating enough revenue to keep up with expenses. So the city's general fund is subsidizing the PSST to the tune of over $1 million this year alone. So that's a real issue that we have to deal with. Those two specific ones, like I said, we've accomplished one of them. We still need to get a stormwater utility that would really put the city's general fund in a much more healthy place. But it still gets back to long-term sales tax reliance and trying to diversify. And maybe we need some help from the state legislature in the future as well on that matter. but trying to diversify the revenue sources, but also boost our sales tax where we can to try to keep up. But the cost of operating the city and the employees and benefits and all those things continue to rise at a faster pace than sales tax revenue does per year.
Thank you. Chris, you're up. You need me to repeat?
Good, thank you.
You just say yes or no?
Oh, I'm good. I don't. Sorry. So when you have a significant budget shortfall, there's two things that you can do immediately to try to mitigate those issues. The first is to increase revenue. And I really like and agree what Councilmember Holman said, was like trying to diversify our revenue streams. I think that's a great plan to try to mitigate immediately. The second one is to decrease spending, which is something that no one wants to do. But I think regardless of that, we need to be tracking our budget a little bit better. And we need to have a better knowledge of the analytics of the budget to make sure that we are not costing ourselves or shooting ourselves in the foot later on. When we talk about maintaining all of our equipment and how to bring the characteristics of Norman that we love so much to fruition and keep them maintained, we really need to improve our efficiency. So when we look at logistics and ambulatory times here in Norman, those are two things that can cost our city a lot of money if we're not doing it appropriately. There's several cities that have kind of shortened their footprint down in order to save money on cost. And that's something that I think we need to look at, because when you have preventative measures to help businesses and help our city, it reduces shortfalls and increases profits long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, your turn.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. We'll begin with you with this question. How will you expedite and fully fund the remaining Norman Forward projects, ensuring the will of the voters are delivered?
Well, I appreciate that. Thankfully, our city staff has done a wonderful job. They have had plans prepared to get these projects done based on the budget that we have. We attempted to ask for additional funding to enhance those projects beyond what was originally proposed. And, we did not get that approval. So we are moving full steam ahead with getting these projects done based on the budget we have, being done in a way with some of them that expansion could be a possibility in the future. One of the things I've talked about when it comes to the aquatic center and the indoor multi-sport, for example, is, go ahead and get the 25-meter pool done, get it built, let people see what it's like, let people experience, and then say, what do you think about expanding this now? Maybe, can we do the 50-meter pool now? Can we add some more courts now? So get something in the ground that people can see and use and get an example of, and then go back. But so far, I think we're on project number 10 that we've completed so far. And we are doing a pretty good job getting the new central library done, getting the East Side Branch Library done, the new skate park, the new Westwood, Ruby Grant Park recently opened. I'm very excited about the improvements that are going to be coming to Reeves Park as well in Ward 7. And so we had Songbird Park, I think down in Ward 7, down in the Cedar Lane neighborhood, was a Norman Forward project. It was one of 5 neighborhood parks that got constructed through Norman Forward. So continue to push for that. If we can see a improvement in our sales tax figures over the next few years, we can continue to make enhancements to those projects without having to ask voters for any additional funding. So I'm hoping when Norman Forward program is coming to the end of its lifespan, that it will have set a good enough example that Norman voters might be interested at that time in a second version of it to do even more projects. Thank you.
Chris, same question to you about forward projects. Getting done quick and fully.
So two things that we need to do is first one is the voter awareness that leads into transparency, that leads into voter education. I think those are things that we need to be focusing on to make sure that the voters know the importance of these facilities, because we do need these facilities. I think that they're important for our families here in Norman and our children here in Norman. We stand next to one of the greatest athletic facilities in the entire world, and yet our children go and play on something that is nowhere near as nice. And so I think we do need to improve those things. And the second thing we do is be cheerleaders for it. These are something that I am very passionate about. I love children's sports. I love when, people are outside being active. I think it leads to a better, healthier community. So when it comes to expediting, I'm the person who's going to be standing out front, being, educating the public, educating the voters, saying like, this is what we need to make sure that our parks and public spaces are safe and clean. And on top of that, it really helps our economy move forward. When we're drawing people down from more, drawing people up from Dallas, we're all coming together. And so a lot of that has to do with, are we taking care of what we have? And are we pushing forward to make sure that we are building new facilities? And so those two things that we need to be sure that the voters are aware about, and we're being transparent about where the money's coming from and what we're doing with it, and then be sure that we're educating them. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica, the same question to you about Norman Forward.
So I think that there are two approaches to this, but I do think that we have to work with the budget that we have. It is my understanding that this was budgeted with a 4% projection growth rate in sales tax that we are actually not hitting, that we've dropped to 2%. So unfortunately, we would have to kind of reevaluate that and make sure that we are able to fund it with with what we do have rather than what we don't have. But we do have to push these forward. The voters do want it. We're all looking forward to it. And like Chris mentioned, these are attractions that will draw people from different surrounding areas, and that can help with the revenue problem. And when they're here, they stay here, they eat here, they go out here. So, it is a quality of life. We want these things, but we just have to make sure that we work with what we have. We also have to tackle it by, once again, going back to what I was saying is, while we're working within budget, we have to work on increasing our sales tax revenue so that it can fund that, and we don't have to go to the voters for more money. I think that it's something that people would rather not do, is get their sales taxes increased even more so than they already have been.
Thank you so much.
All right, this question we will start with Chris. Right? Yes, Chris, sorry. As a young professional here in Norman, it's important for quality of life in our town to be continually improved. A few years ago, we passed Norman Forward, which was a great step towards improving quality of life, but those projects, as mentioned, are potentially underfunded for what the public wants to see. What quality of life initiatives would you propose to keep us on the leading edge in the region and to make sure that we attract and retain young professionals?
Thank you. I think I hit on this a little earlier in the forum where we talked about increasing organizations and jobs that have higher salaries that can support a family, for people to start a family. I'm a young professional. I see my friends going to different cities all across the country because they're attracted to things, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a little enticing, but it's one of those things where I know Norman can do the exact same thing. So when we look at how to keep young professionals, how to attract young professionals, how to keep them, we need to be looking at diverse neighborhoods. And what I talked about earlier with like at least a 10th of millennials do not have driver's license. They want to bike, they want to be active. So we need to be looking towards a more environmentally stable community that is safe for them to commute without using cars, increasing public transportation, but also working with the state to help with Thunderbird. I think Thunderbird is our closest geological attraction, and I think we could always do a little bit better. And on top of that, we don't have a lot of things, like we don't have a beach, we don't have mountains. The best thing that Norman has is people. And so we need to be propping up and championing some of the great people we have here in Norman. And give them more, we need to be able to supply better jobs. We have a lot of service jobs here in Norman. I know we have some great organizations that have been awesome stakeholders and awesome partners here in Norman, but we need to have a little bit more. We need to have jobs where people can make enough money to buy a house, to start a family. And then those things will have sales tax. We'll be spending their money here. So those kind of things where we talk about young professionals and attracting them here, we need to have more initiatives that we have more environmentally friendly ecosystems and roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica, would you like to repeat the question? Sorry.
No, you're good. So this kind of brings me back to my own personal experience and things that I have witnessed throughout. I was 20 when I moved here to Oklahoma, and I had a baby, so I was a small, a young family. And when you're moving from one state to the other, there are several factors that you really have to look at closely. To me, that's what quality of life is, are these things. Cost of living. I lived in Washington State, and it was gorgeous over there. I didn't like the weather, but it was actually a very beautiful state. Lots to do, lots of fun, lots of culture, but it was just not affordable. So Norman has to be affordable, which I know is kind of a concern right now. Is it going to stay affordable? Is it getting worse? We have to make sure that we make it affordable for young families. They're just now getting out in there and starting to build their wealth. So that is a big concern. Another thing is jobs and education. At the time, I was looking for a school, massage therapy, and I was able to find a great school here in Oklahoma. So that's one of the things that drew me in. I mean, I think we're kind of covered with the university there and more Norman. I mean, I think we're great with that. But the jobs, we do need quality jobs here. People don't particularly like to commute, as Chris mentioned. Some people still like to drive. That's me. But we do need quality jobs for these people. And also another thing is it a safe place to live? I grew up I was born in El Paso, but I grew up part of my childhood in Los Angeles. And this is the 90s when crime was high, gang violence was bad, and I was in the underprivileged neighborhood. So it was nice to see how all the community and the cops came together to make sure that these were safe neighborhoods for us while the whole riots were going down. Those are just kind of things that families look at when they're moving somewhere. And I think that we need to do that for Norman.
Thank you. Stephen, do you need the question repeated?
Just to make sure I answer your whole question, would you please?
Sure, yeah. As a young professional here in Norman, it's important that quality of life in our town can be continually improved. A few years ago, we passed Norman Forward, which was a great step towards improving quality of life, but those projects are potentially, as we've talked about, underfunded for what the public actually wants to see. What quality of life initiatives would you propose to keep on the leading edge in the region and to make sure we attract and retain young professionals?
Thank you. So continuing to work on the Norman Forward projects, the ones we've completed so far have been done as we promised and under budget, all but one of them actually. And so continuing to do that, that's been a major help in the last couple of years. Another thing is housing, different housing options. Not everybody looking to move to Norman wants to live in a subdivision on the edge of town with a front lawn that they have to maintain. Not everybody wants to live in an apartment either. So what's in the middle there? We call it the missing middle, and we need more of that in Norman. We've spent a lot of time on policy to focus on the center city area, the campus corner between downtown and campus corner area, trying to build a connection there to create different housing types that young professionals would be interested in. People that can walk to Main Street, you can walk to campus corner. You don't have to drive everywhere. You still can if you want to, but you're not forced to because there's no other option. Things like Johnson Controls, one of our biggest employers in the city, they just did a massive expansion in the last 2 years of their facility, which brought on dozens of new jobs. Same thing with the research park at OU on the South Campus with the Weather Center and the OU Innovation Hub. Those are the type of jobs that we need more of. Emmy, another one, back to them. Why I was so proud that we were able to keep that company in Norman is because I knew that was the type of jobs that OU graduates would want to have if they were going to choose to stay here. The bike lanes, as Chris mentioned, infrastructure like that. Norman was the first city in the metro area to pass a complete streets policy, and all of our streets from now, Oklahoma City just did them in downtown. Our policy is all new streets in Norman. If we're widening a street, it's getting the dedicated bike lanes and multimodal paths. And so all those types of things are things we need to continue to push for, have a vibrant downtown, a vibrant campus corner, an array of housing options for people to choose from, a great school system, which is the Norman Public Schools, of course, does a great job, and those type of quality jobs that we talked about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Monica, we're going to begin with you on this question. If elected, how will you encourage partnerships with other community organizations such as Norman Next and the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I think that we should be doing that and working together. I think it's a great idea to partner up. I think, well, for me personally, I'm not going to pretend to know everything about everything. In fact, I'm still learning a lot right now. I've kind of just jumped in with Bovi, and I've made it a point to talk to different people in different areas, different leaders in the community, because I want to be well informed and I want their opinion, and I want to see how we can all work together so that we move Norman forward. You know, like I said, I feel like we've kind of plateaued, where we're stagnant, and that's going to become an issue as time keeps going on. So working with the chamber, and like, I loved how you guys advocated for the $2 million to go to small businesses. They were suffering, they needed that. It was great. You know, I think that Norman Next, you know, once again, going with retention of jobs and the quality jobs, retaining them, expanding on them. You guys have those ideas because that's what you're in, that's your expertise, and that's your knowledge. And we need to be tapping into everyone's expertise to make Norman flow and grow and make people fall in love with it and people want to come here.
Thank you. Stephen, you're
Say it again, Scott, I'm sorry.
okay. So the question is, if elected, how will you encourage partnerships with other community organizations like the Chamber and Norman?
I appreciate that question. So my whole time on council, as you know, and many others that have interacted with me and worked with me, I've always been willing to meet with groups and talk about these. I've come to the chamber forums, the meet and greets, the business after hours stuff. I've been an umpire for the Norman Next kickball tournament several times. They call it a celebrity guest. I don't know about that, but it's always a really fun time to get to know different people and kind of a fun atmosphere that's not necessarily a business setting, but you get to know who the folks are that are in that setting. Attending things like the Rotary meetings and meeting different people involved in the business community that way. The Downtowners Association, the Campus Corner Association, the East Side Business Association, various groups throughout town that do a great job of advocating for businesses in Norman. And I think the city council has a responsibility, all council members do, to keep an open line of communication, to be willing to listen to ideas, concerns, comments, suggestions, whatever it may be from the various people in our community, in the business world specifically. And so that's what I've always believed in doing. That's what I will continue to do if reelected to another term.
Thank you. Chris, same question to you.
Thanks. I think the best way that we can have better partnerships within our community is with communication. We can have quarterly meetings where we can sit here and look at a calendar to make sure that everyone's getting correct spot and make sure everyone's the voice is being heard and that their events are being, broadcasted. 2 of my 3 jobs here in Norman are they thrive on community. I'm always kind of in the public face when I'm working at the lounge, and then with the financial investment group, we work with different business leaders across the state. And on top of that, I've worked with Kiwanis, I've worked with the African American Employee Resource Group here at OU, the African American Business Leaders Group here in Norman. So the thing that has always worked well and the things that keep these groups up is communication. We have to be in constant communication, and we have to kind of put our petty differences aside and be sure that what we're working towards is a better Norman, and teamwork is the biggest thing. And so when we talk about when I'm elected, we want to work with state Congress members. We want to work with other cities around us to make sure that we are communicating, that we know, what's going on here, and we'll make sure they know that what we have going on here. So communication is key when it comes to encouraging partnerships across our great city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had trouble with that mute button again. All right, we're gonna start here with Stephen. And this is the last question, so get excited. Or don't, whatever. What are your thoughts on the current caustic dialogue in our community, particularly on social media? And how will you listen and lead on this issue?
Yeah, it is can be very discouraging, disparaging for many folks to see some of the dialogue that goes on. There are people that are very emotional, very passionate about the issues that they care about, and that is without a doubt, you can tell that when you look at some of the online discourse. I think a lot of people really mean well. I think again, it is politics is a policy, and politics are very emotional issues for most people. And I think we're seeing a lot of people expressing that right now in a way that we haven't seen before. Some folks take it to a pretty extreme level. And I think that doesn't represent the majority of people in the Norman community. I think the vast majority of Norman people are very reasonable, are very smart, and willing to work with their neighbors to, do what's best for our community as a whole. And so as a council member, continuing to listen, if you call me and you have an issue, I'm not going to ask you what your political party is or who you voted for. I'm not going to ask you if you voted for me. I'm going to say, what's the issue and how can I help you? And we can find an answer to your question. Maybe we can't find a solution, but we want you to make sure that you at least understand what is going on, why this is happening, why we can't fix it right now, why it might take a little bit to fix it, all those types of things. So making sure that from a leadership standpoint, that we kind of have to rise above that personally and really make sure that people know that, well, I didn't vote for Stephen, so I don't know if I can go to him with this. I've got a debris pickup problem in front of my house. Is he going to listen to me because I, didn't support him? People have to know that when you're in this position, you have an obligation to listen to everybody and take everybody's, issues seriously and do what you can to help if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I got it. Thank you. I think caustic is a really, really appropriate way to describe what's going on. There's a lot of misinformation out there. It's very rampant. With my campaign and the people around me, we have decided to try to stay off social media as much as possible. We wanted to talk to people face to face. And we realized with the pandemic, it's a little hard to do that. So I've always put out my email and through them, if you've emailed me, I've always said, if you want to call me, call me. I've given my phone number out to those individuals, and some people have taken it up, and we've had lovely informational conversations where I can explain my point of view, they can explain their point of view. And even if we don't agree, that's okay, because I have so much experience in helping people that I don't agree with. It's kind of just like second nature. If you come with help, if you come with like needing help, I'm there. One of my favorite sayings ever is, if you knock on the door and you're thirsty, I will always give you a glass of water. And that's what I've always tried to do. And I've always tried to be polite and professional. And I think we need to be sure that we are pushing that into our city to help our culture be better. We've had some individuals throughout our city who have brought national politics and pervaded into our lovely community. And it's really ruining, public discourse, and it's ruining civility here in Norman. And so what I always try to do is go high when they go low. And that's just who I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Yeah, I think that social media can get pretty hostile. It can get pretty ugly, but it's kind of like they both said, you got to rise above it. You can't, I personally don't partake in it. Why give it that energy? Why pay it mind? They don't mean well when they start attacking and being hostile, and some of the things they say is just terrible. So why pay it any mind? These are not people that are wanting to come to you and talk to you about actual issues. They're just trying to attack you and smear you and bring you down. So to me, no, I'm here for everybody and anybody that wants to talk, but civility is important. I would never go, just like in this forum, we don't condone disrespect. You know, we have to remain cordial. It should be like that in social media, but it's not. Some of these ward pages are just so horrible. So what I chose to do was create a ward page where it's nonpartisan. It doesn't matter your political affiliation. Anyone can come. You know, Chris, Stephen, if you guys want to join the page, it's perfectly fine. You can post your stuff. People can come and comment on it. But as soon as it gets gross, like the other pages have, you know, we need leadership that's going to squash that, because that just promotes toxicity instead of healing. And what we need right now is to move forward and not give energy to that kind of environment.
Okay, very good. To the end of our questions, you guys did fantastic. You each are now going to have 60 seconds for a closing statement, and we're going to go in reverse order this time around. So I think we started with Stephen. He got to go first. This time, Monica, you get to go first. We'll work our way back up. So Monica, you're recognized for 60 seconds for a closing statement.
I really don't have much to say. My whole thing is I'm not coming at this because I have any political ambition. I'm coming at this as a Norman resident who loves Norman and wants to do good by it, good by the people. I want to be the voice of everyone. Left, right, it doesn't matter, you know. I'm sure I get I labeled as one way, but that's not true. I've been able to listen from both ends. You know, political affiliation doesn't mean anything in the sense of just kind of sticking by it. It's values, and I think we all have overlapping values. It's focusing on those and making sure that we are here for the best of Norman and to better represent the people of Norman. So.
Thank you. Chris, your 60-second closing statement.
Thank you. I'm passionate about the businesses we have here in Norman, and I always try to champion economic growth in our city. I believe our city council needs to get back to basics and fix the problems that are immediately facing our city. That means fixing our roads and keeping them not just adequate, but exceptional. Keeping our parks and public spaces clean and safe, helping our economy in the city and the businesses that have been hurt through COVID-19. We really need to love each other. We need to treat our neighbors as ourselves. And I'm here to bring the value of inclusiveness back to Norman. I bring a solid experience in helping people no matter what or what they represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, 60-second closing statement.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate Chamber of Commerce hosting this forum. I appreciate Monica and Chris for stepping up again and being willing to do this, especially going through COVID-19 and a pandemic. This job wouldn't seem very attractive to most people, in addition to the division and stuff that we see. So I do appreciate both of you. And I just want to, I'm a Norman kid. I grew up here. I grew up in Ward 7 for the most part, went to Norman High, went to Kennedy, Irving. And my dad grew up here. My great-grandfather worked at Central State for 42 years. My grandfather and my great-grandfather owned a small business on Main Street for many years. So I love Norman. It's why I've chose to do this job when people asked me to run years ago. It's why I've kept running for it. And my knowledge and experience on this council is one of the main factors in why I decided I needed to continue doing this and ask voters to keep me at City Hall as their voice. So that's why I'm here, and I appreciate all of you guys. And I look forward to seeing everybody go vote either early on Thursday or Friday or on Tuesday at the polls. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we wrap up tonight, would each of you like to share the best point of contact? If a voter has a question they'd like to make contact with you, would you like to share that? And Chris, you got sandwiched in the middle on both the beginning and the end, so I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
Thanks. You can find me in my email. Always email me anytime. I'll always respond. It's my last name, Jourden, Jourden, @CL4 Norman 7.org. Message me on Facebook, tweet me. We're on Twitter, CL4 Norman 7. And through there, if we have a website, cl4norman7.org. And then I will always give out my number if you contact me. I'm always down to have a phone call. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, my cell phone number is on the city website, but 405-535-7523. Text or call anytime. And holmanfornorman.com is the website. And then you can find me on Facebook, my personal page, Stephen Tyler Holman, or re-elect council member Stephen Tyler Holman is my official page. I'm on Instagram also, so that's another way. Also, anybody that wants to stop by Friendly Market, I'm there most of the day throughout the week, and I'm always willing to have a conversation if I'm not helping a customer at that moment. So thank you.
Monica?
Email Monica, the number 4, Ward, number 7 @gmail.com. And then we do have our Facebook, Monica Marsh for Ward 7. Yeah, email is probably the best way. I will respond, and I look forward to any conversation.
Great. Thank you, 3, so very, very much. I think it was said earlier, you guys are a great example of how we can have civil dialogue and discourse. And I really appreciate your thoughtfulness as you consider these questions tonight. Emily, it's been great co-hosting these forums with you over the last few days.
Always a pleasure, Scott.
Thank you. I need a break though, so doing 5 of these in a week and a half or so is a lot. So I'm looking forward to a break. But before then, though, remind everybody tomorrow by 5 o'clock, if you need an absentee ballot, please make sure you request one. You can early in-person vote this Thursday and Friday, February the 4th and the 5th from 8 to 6 p.m. That is at the county fairgrounds, either in the election board office or right next door. They'll have signs there for you. And then, of course, your polling place will be open next Tuesday if you live in wards 1, 2, 3, 5, or 7. If you missed tonight's forum or you wanted to share this with one of your friends or neighbors, again, this will be on our Facebook pages. It'll be on YouTube. The 3 of you generated over 60 comments on the event tonight, so that was great. I'm sure there'll be more after tonight, and I encourage everybody to be engaged and get involved. Stay well, be healthy, and thank you so much for joining Norman Next and the Norman Chamber of Commerce throughout this City Council Candidate Forum. Everybody take care.
Thank you.